At the will reading, my billionaire grandfather gave millions to everyone else, while I only received a small, sealed envelope with my name written in his familiar handwriting. The room buzzed with whispers and barely hidden smiles as my relatives glanced at me with pity. I stayed quiet, remembering how close my grandfather and I had been, especially during his final years. When I opened the envelope later that night, I found a simple letter and an old brass key. The letter said he trusted me more than anyone and asked me to be patient. Confused but curious, I decided to follow his instructions instead of questioning his choice. The next morning, I visited a forgotten warehouse on the edge of the city, the address written neatly at the bottom of the page. The key fit perfectly into a rusted lock, and the door creaked open as if it had been waiting for me. Inside, the space was dusty but filled with neatly covered items. As I pulled the sheets away, I discovered rare paintings, antique sculptures, and vintage cars, assets never listed in any official records. My grandfather had quietly built this collection over decades, away from public eyes. Each piece had a small note explaining its history and value. One note mentioned that these items were insured and already gaining value faster than his cash investments. I realized then that he hadn't left me something small at all. He had left me a legacy that required care, knowledge, and responsibility. Over the next few weeks, I learned that my grandfather had also transferred ownership of several patents and private companies into a trust under my name. The paperwork was complex, but the numbers were staggering. My small inheritance was worth more than what anyone else had received. Meanwhile, my relatives quickly spent their millions on luxury homes, parties, and risky ventures. Family gatherings turned awkward, as their excitement faded and quiet worry replaced it. Some even started asking me for advice. I stayed humble, remembering my grandfather's lessons about patience and silence. He always said real wealth grows best when it isn't shouted about. I focused on learning, not spending. Months later, a final letter arrived from his lawyer, revealing my grandfather's true intention. He wanted to reward wisdom, not entitlement, and believed I would protect what he built. Reading those words, I felt a deep sense of honor. When the truth finally came out, the same relatives who once pitied me now looked at me with disbelief. The room that once buzzed with whispers fell silent again, but this time for a different reason. I didn't celebrate or boast. Instead, I quietly continued my grandfather's work, expanding the businesses and preserving the collection. Wealth, I learned, isn't just about money, it's about trust. In the end, my grandfather gave everyone else millions, but he gave me the future.